All right, welcome everyone. In this video, I want to get some practice with some of these functions that we've been working with in the dplyr package and working with the storms data frame, which is also in the dplyr package. So let's say I want to create a new data frame, which we're going to call yearly underscore wind. That's going to give the maximum, minimum, and mean wind speeds for the storms that are grouped together by year. And then after I've created that data frame, yearly winds, I want to go ahead and subset 5 rows of yearly wind that had the largest maximum wind speeds. Okay, so let's take a look at how we can do that. So I'm going to paste some code down below to create this yearly wind speed. I'm going to do this using the pipe. And I've added some comments to this, and we'll kind of walk through what is going on here. So we're going to assign all of this output to a new data frame that we call yearly wind. So up until now, we've been working with these functions, and the output of these dplyr functions are data frames themselves that we haven't been storing anywhere. We've just been printing them to the screen, but we could store them to a new data frame if we wanted to. So that's what I'm going to do here. So I'm going to begin by taking the storms data frame and inputting it into the group by function. And I'm going to group all of the observations in the storms data frame together by year. So this is really going to create like a new factor variable for year, and it's going to treat all of the observations with the same year together as a group. And then I'm going to take that data frame that it's created, where it's taken the storms data frame and then grouped observations together by year now, and it's going to input that grouped data frame into the summarize function. And now the summarize function says, okay, you just created a bunch of groups by year. So for each group, for each year, take all of the observations in that year, calculate the maximum wind speed. That function is max. So this is a built-in function which is called max. And we're going to store that to a variable that I call max wind. So over here, I can call this whatever I want. This is the name that I'm giving to this new variable that I'm calculating. This I can't call whatever I want. And what's really important here, I should have mentioned this in the previous video, is that when we input this variable wind into this max function, I don't enter it as storms $wind. It's already implied that wind is in the storms data frame. So I just indicate the variable name and not the data frame from which it comes from. That is already implied here. So all I need to do as far as what I'm inputting into the max function is indicate the variable name inside of the storms data frame. To calculate the minimum wind speed, that is a built-in function in R, which is called min. So I'm going to apply the min function to the wind column. And then to calculate the mean wind speed for each year, I'm going to apply the mean function to the wind column. So again, I'm not applying this to storms $wind. It's already implied we're in the storms data frame, and now we're applying these functions to the wind column of that data frame. So running this code cell is not going to produce is not going to display any output on the screen, right? This created a data frame that I stored to yearly wind. And if I want to see that, I can print it to the screen. So say I could print like the first 10 rows of that data frame, and this is printing in 1975. The storm that had the maximum wind speed was 120 knots. The minimum wind speed of all storms was 20 knots. The mean wind speed of all storms in 1975 was 52.4 knots. And it does these three calculations for all of the storms for each of the years in this data frame. And here I'm just looking at the first 10 rows of the data frame. And I believe that this question was saying, okay, we did the first part, which was to group things by year and then calculate for each year these three quantities. And then the last part is it's saying, well, let's subset the 5 rows with the largest maximum wind speeds. And so there is a function in dplyr called slice max. The first thing I would do is input the data frame. Now this is the data frame that I'm working with, yearly wind. And I want to pull off the 5 rows that have the biggest value, in this case, maximum wind speed. So I would say, which variable are we picking off the maximum values of? It would be maximum wind speed. So earlier in this notebook, we talked about the slice max function. We first input a data frame name, then a variable, and then an integer. And what this is going to do, it's going to pick off the 5 rows with the greatest value of max wind. And this is telling me the 5 years that had the 5 greatest values for maximum wind speed. So that is 1980, 1988, 2005, 2019, 1998, and 2017. Okay, great. So that is a nice way of practicing combining a couple of these functions that we've learned in dplyr. Great. In the next video, we'll continue working with some additional functions. The next one up is the select function. Thanks.